If you're looking for a flower that's beautiful, that comes in every imaginable color, and that blooms for a pretty long season, you might want to consider daylilies. Join me today as I show you how I plant my daylilies. Hi, I'm Gardener Scott, and this is a box of bare root daylilies. Now, I've been growing daylilies for years and years. It's one of my favorite plants. And while each flower only lasts for a day, the plant can continue to send up new blooms for many, many weeks. So when you choose the variety of daylily to grow, look for a variety that matches what kind of blooming season you want. You have some early season, mid-season, and late season. And so one of the things I'll do today is mix some of these flowers so that I can have a season filled with the beautiful daylilies. I'm going to put my first grouping of daylilies in this area right here. I have some strawberries that are already started as a ground cover. In the space between the strawberries, I'll put some daylilies. As with most flowering plants, if you put them in a group, in a large bunch of plants, it tends to make a stronger visual impact. Now, in my front yard, I'm growing some daylilies, and I started small with just some small groupings so that the daylilies have room to spread near my currant bushes. Back here, I also have currant bushes along with the strawberries, and so I'll follow the same basic pattern, but I'm putting more plants closer together to fill this area and really make a dramatic visual statement. I'm going with two different types of daylilies in this area. Right up front, I have this Persian ruby daylily. It has a vibrant ruby red big flower, and it's going to flower early to mid-season. Behind it, I'm going to do two of these Carpenter's Choice daylilies, more of a raspberry pink color. Also big flowers, but they're going to bloom mid to late season. So in this large clump of daylilies, I'll have first the darker color, then as they start to fade, the lighter raspberry color will come in, and they'll both be blooming at about the same time. And then towards the end of the season, it'll be the lighter colors to finish it out. The spacing for the daylilies should be between 18 to 24 inches. And realize that these plants are going to grow much bigger and fill out this space. Now, when you get bare root daylilies like this, you'll notice that it already comes in a little clump. Each of these groups of leaves can be separated into its own plant, but I want to keep this together. These groupings of leaves called fans will grow better if I keep this part of the plant connected and I bury it completely. By keeping these plants together, I'll probably get blooms next year, definitely the year after that. If you were to separate each of these into an individual daylily plant, sure, it's an easy way to propagate and spread an area, but it's going to take an extra year, maybe even two, to get blooms, because each of these will need to grow and develop the root system that can support a lot of flowers. The process for planting these daylilies is about the same as most of the plants you'll put in. I'm going to pull out some of these smaller plants that at this point are just weeds. I'm using my hori to dig the hole to move aside some of the mulch. I recommend that you start with moist soil. Now, coincidentally, I had a really nice rain last night, so the soil is nice and moist. The hori helps me dig out any weeds that might be in the way. And I'm going to dig a hole that will be big enough to support all of these roots. Daylilies can grow in a great variety of soils. Sandy soil, clay soil, they're all suitable for daylilies. Now, my soil tends to be pretty compacted. It's deficient in quite a few nutrients, though I've been working to improve this area. So I'll check the size of the hole. We're almost there. I'll make it a little bit deeper. And so depending on how good your soil is, you may or may not need to put fertilizer. I'm going to go ahead and use some of this IV organic fertilizer that I like to use in the bottom of the hole, just because I know my soil is deficient. I'll add it to some of the fill that's going to go on top. This has nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, NPK, but it also has the other macronutrients, calcium, magnesium, and sulfur, along with a little bit of iron. So with the hole dug, I'm going to just go ahead and lay in the fans of my daylily. When you look at these fans, you can see where all the roots are coming out and then where all the leaves are emerging above that. So we want to make sure that we get all the roots in the ground. So these will go a little bit deeper than the level of the soil surface. We want to make sure we don't bury too deeply and cause any potential rot problems. So most of these fans are going to be above the surface, and where these roots are will be just slightly below the surface level. So I place into the hole, spread the roots apart, and then just backfill with this soil that I took out. I'll go ahead and work the soil in underneath the roots so that this is all covered very well. Gradually add some more. I'll come back later, of course, and water, which will help all this settle in a little bit better. But if I can firm it so that the soil around the roots is not leaving many air gaps, then that will fulfill my goal. And so now that it's in the soil, you can see that these fans are resting above the soil level and all of the roots are clearly buried. Now I'm going to follow the same process to get the rest of these daylilies in the ground and complete this part of my planting. With the daylilies in the ground, now I'm going to add a nice thick layer of mulch. I'm using wood chips. This will help moderate soil moisture, soil temperature, cut down on the weeds, and as it breaks down, it adds a nice new organic component to the soil. That's one of the ways I'm building a good soil in this area. Now, these daylilies over here had actually separated before I got them. They essentially came as 4 distinct plants. So I went ahead and planted them as individual plants, but in the same clump, in the same group of fans like I did with these others. Keeping the daylilies mulched will really help, because daylilies like water, and if the soil dries out, you might not get as many blooms. The mulch will really help in that regard. With the plants in the ground and the mulch in place, now I'll give everything a really nice soak. Even though the soil is already moist from the rain, I want to make sure to get as much water as I can around these roots so that it settles in, I don't have those air gaps, and the roots can begin growing and giving me big, beautiful daylily plants. If you're wondering about when to plant your daylilies, well, you can do it in spring, summer, and fall. If your season is long enough and allows you to actually get plants in the ground in early April, you might actually get some blooms in the first year, depending on the variety of daylily that you choose, but don't expect that. Summer is less desirable, but for some of us, that's our best option. So it's midsummer for me right now here in Colorado, and my winters can come early. So I want to get these in the ground to establish as soon as possible. When you plant in summer, you need to take extra precautions to make sure that the ground doesn't dry out. And if you have the option, maybe put a little bit of shade over the plants while they're first planted and first developing. I have clouds developing. There's another storm today, and so in just another hour or so, I'm going to have cloud cover. That's ideal if you have to plant in summer. Do it late in the day or do it under overcast so that the plants aren't extra stressed. But make sure you keep watering. And fall is a good time of year. Early fall, get your daylilies in the ground. That gives them enough time for the roots to establish and overwinter the plants. And then next year, most of the plants you put in the ground will begin to flower. You might not get a lot in the first year. As the plants spread, you're going to get more and more blooms. But there is a limit to that, and I'll talk about that in a future video. As for ordering the bare root plants, they'll come in a box. These roots are dry. The plant isn't dormant, but these are really rugged plants, so they can handle a few days without water in a box, but try to get them in the ground as soon as possible. If you can't, then go ahead and store this box in a cool, dry, and dark location for a few days until you can get them in the ground. You can expect that I'll show you a lot more about my daylilies in the months and years to come. I'm Gardener Scott. Enjoy gardening.